snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books.
Hi guys! So I am here today to do a joint review of two self-published books that I recently read and enjoyed. So let's get started. The first one I'm going to talk about is this one. It is called Strange Wise, Tales and Curiosities, and it's number 9. Now don't be fooled, number 9 is not necessarily meaning that it is number 9 in the series. It is the first book in the series, but that's kind of the pun of this story, and I'll tell you more about that. The second one that I'm going to be reviewing is this one, which is called Legends of Grimius Ironblood, and this is book 1, The Curious Battle, and this is written by Ken Boyter and illustrated by Rich Nairn, or Narn, I'm not sure how you say that, but I really like this one, so I'll tell you more about that in a second. So this one was sent to me by the author, who is called Robert Jimenez, and Robert Jimenez not only writes this, he also illustrates the entire thing, and I think the illustrations were the strongest point for me. Now, this is kind of a pulp horror spoof magazine. Basically, it's taking some of the things that you used to see in pulp magazines and trying to recreate that in this story, and essentially this is a spoof magazine. It's with pulp influence. We have 2 stories within this that are horror stories. They're quite short because they're basically mini stories for a magazine. We also have a section that is like letters from readers, advertisements for various strange and bizarre things and contraptions. It very much has influence from like 80s, 70s culture, that sort of era. Personally, love the idea of this. The fact that it's trying to take pulp magazines and reinvigorate them and reinvent them to be a spoof, to be something fun, to be something witty, to be something entertaining, that was really great for me. I really enjoyed seeing the ideas come through, and I think the letters from readers section was really amusing. There were some great lines in that I really enjoyed. I do really like the illustration section as well. Right at the very back of this, we have a couple of pages that are just illustrations to do with basically tikis, which is really cool. I definitely like the illustration style of these. I don't love the illustration on the front myself, but I think some of you guys will if you are into sort of pulp fiction. But personally, I prefer more detailed, intense drawings. This one isn't my favourite, but the ones inside I did really like. Now, the problem I had with this was not so much the idea of the whole thing. I thought that was really great. The problem I had was the 2 stories inside I didn't like. I just didn't think they were very scary. I didn't think that they were particularly interesting or suspenseful or exciting. They were okay, and there was nothing really more than that for me. There's also a comic strip within this, which I'll show you, and this is what the comic strip looks like, and I did really enjoy the story of the comic strip section. Some good bits and some bad bits in this. Definitely think that the advertisements and the comic strip and the letters from the readers and the illustrations were all good things. But the 2 stories, the 2 main stories, which make up a large amount of this book, because it is only about 100-ish pages, they just weren't very good. And although they were illustrated and I liked the illustrations, I just didn't connect with the stories themselves. So unfortunately, I only gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. I think it was okay. I think the idea is fantastic. I think the execution was not great for me personally, but I do think if you read a lot more pulp fiction, or if you're really into horror stuff, then maybe this will be something that appeals more to you than it did to me. I just think the idea was fantastic. So if it does sound like something that appeals to you, I will link it down below and you can go and check it out. I was very grateful to read this and review it, and I hope that some of you guys will check it out. The next one I have to review is this one, which is The Legends of Grimius Ironblood, and this one I loved. I was very nicely contacted by the author, who actually coincidentally has a YouTube channel called The Bottled Imp. I will link it below because I've checked it out and their YouTube channel is fantastic. The production value is great, and the way that they talk about all things fantasy, not just books, is fabulous. So definitely check out their channel because it is really, and I'm not lying when I say this, fantastically great. So check it out. The author is actually the one who is on the channel. He speaks most of the time, and he has written this entire book, which is quite a hefty book. It's very chunky. It's about 200 and something pages, and it's quite large, as you can see next to my head. It's pretty big. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect necessarily when I got this. I knew it was illustrated, so I was pretty excited about that because the illustration on the front is pretty wonderful. And as you look inside, you can see that the illustrations inside are also very wonderful, very like caricatures. They're just hugely entertaining to look at, and they very much match the theme of this book, which is entirely told in verse. Now what this does is it takes some of the elements that we've seen in classical fairy tales and fantasy stories for a very long time. We have a grumpy old wizard-like person, we've got two brothers who are feuding over the love of a fair maiden. The fair maiden is not really interested in the two brothers, she actually would rather do her own thing, and she's actually an awesome sword fighter. So this is the thing where we kind of turn the tropes a little bit on their heads. We have a woman who is a fantastic sword fighter, we have these two brothers fighting over her affection, but actually she's not bothered. And we also have some other people in the story like thieves and sorcerers and evil people who are doing nefarious things and good people who are just trying to get on in their lives. And the thing I loved about this is it just was so fun. It's told in verse, it's told the whole way through in rhyme, and I just really enjoyed reading this aloud as well as reading it silently. I think reading it aloud you get more out of it, which is great, and I do think it definitely plays with tropes and plays with ideas that we've seen in classic fantasy for a while really, really well. It's a great little story, it's in a couple of different sections so you can kind of take breaks as you go through, but oh my goodness, I really, really enjoyed this, and I would hugely recommend you checking it out. You can buy it on Amazon, so I'll link it below if you want to check it out, but oh my goodness, it was really entertaining. I would definitely say it's well worth a read. I think this will give you a lot of giggles. It definitely gave me lots of giggles. I'll read you a little bit of the verse to sort of give you a feel of what it's like. And so it begins. In amongst the stars that shimmer, a million galaxies sparkle and glimmer. In amongst the galaxies of time, a million worlds gleam and shine. In amongst the worlds of old, a million stories waiting to be told. In amongst the stories vast, a million tales present and past. Tales of woe and tales of wonder, tales of sun and tales of thunder, tales of pity and tales of spite, tales of creatures fierce with fight. Tales of mages and tales of magic, tales of damsels grieved and tragic, tales of scale drakes with fiery breath, tales of disaster, fear and death. But amongst these myths, fables and stories, one legend shines brightly with all its glories. In the world of Edra, it is told, one enigma, rare as gold, recounts the tale of a curious bottle, wondrous with the appearance of mottle, a mysterious vial with origins unknown, from ether, the void, or maybe wind blown. This curious bottle passed from hand to hand, slipping through like fine silky sand, but one master it will seek and find, enslaving life to claim and bind. The fatal prophecy does forewarn, the children of the void will spew forth and spawn. The world of Edra will be forever stained, unless the true Redeemer can be ordained. The fate of life rests with one being, a creature of strength, courage, and far-seeing. Death and destruction is destiny bound, unless the true Redeemer can be crowned. And that's just kind of the introduction. From then on it gets even better, and I just really loved it. But this is the illustrations that you get on that page, just in case you were wondering. There are a lot of illustrations to match up with the text. It's fantastically full of great expressions and crazy characters. I honestly think so many of you guys would love this. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I would hugely recommend it. So thank you so much, Ken, for sending this to me. I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope that more people check this one out because it's fabulous. So those are the 2 books I read. I think they would definitely appeal to some of you, so please do go and give them a try and support some indie authors. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.